WATD presents John Paul, the Car Doctor. All things automotive. Have questions? Call 781-837-4900. Now, here's John Paul, the Car Doctor.
And good Sunday morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. It's your South Shores radio station where there's glimpses of sunrise.
There was some of that this morning.
Glimpses. There was, yeah, absolutely. There was coming in my window. I agree. Mm-hmm. And I never did get to watch the eclipse yesterday. I don't know if it was that visible from where we were, but I guess it was pretty interesting. And
I also missed out. Yep.
Yeah, well, a lot of things I miss out in life. Hey, you know, love is in the air. No, it's not Valentine's Day. This isn't the Valentine's Day show, but deer are getting kind of frisky around this time of year. And they start to crisscross the roadways. And if you've ever seen a deer get hit by a car, it is a pretty horrific-looking thing. And with us is my colleague from AAA, Mark Schieldrop, who's joining us on the Car Doctor program this morning. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, John. Great to be with you.
And so deer are getting a little frisky this time of year. Is that what it is? Is that why they're traipsing around the roadways?
Yeah, it's mating season. I guess I'm not a wildlife biologist, but it's called rutting season. The males in particular, they tend to lose some of their inhibitions and get a little more aggressive, and they're on the move. Deer families move around a bit this time of year, and unfortunately that means we see a pretty big uptick in collisions. So this is the time of year we generally put the word out and urge folks to just be extra mindful and anticipate the presence of deer on our roadways, particularly in the afternoon commute. That's when we see the most deer crashes. And we took a look at crash data in Massachusetts, and it looks like deer crashes, at least last year, reached the highest level on record, at least going back to 2002, which is as far back as we can go with state crash data. So there were 1,806 deer collisions last year in Massachusetts, and that's an average of one deer crash every 74 minutes. So big problem, big issue out there, and the best thing you can do is just anticipate that there's going to be deer out there, and that'll protect you more than anything else.
And, you know, you mentioned that a lot of times it's late in the afternoon as the sun's starting to go down. And one of the things that's like, I guess, all of us, you know, deer tend to travel in packs. So if you see one deer by the side of the road, chances are you're going to see more than that one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're driving along and you see that one big deer hop out on the roadway and people start slowing down, I would say keep scanning that shoulder of the road and look for another. I've seen it myself on numerous occasions where you see one deer and then shortly afterwards there's a small group following afterwards. So that's definitely one thing you want to do. And you want to keep your high beams on, especially when it starts to get dark. You know, you don't want to blind a driver coming up the other way, so you want to dim those, turn those high beams off if someone's approaching. But if you're on your own, particularly in those winding rural roads where maybe you can't see around the bend fully, take your foot off the gas pedal, scan the side of the road, keep those high beams on. The more you can do to improve your visibility, the better your chances are of avoiding that collision. You know, giving yourself that extra couple of seconds of reaction time that you're going to need to slow down and prevent that collision.
So just like any good safe driving, you want to keep your eyes up, look way down the road, scan the roadway ahead, and kind of constantly scan back and forth to the car so you can sort of anticipate these deer running out across the highway or across the road. And it used to be, I mean, I grew up in the city. I never saw a deer till I went to the country one day, but now we see deer all over the place. I remember a few years ago I was at the Warwick Mall early in the morning, and here comes two deer running across the parking lot, and you'd be like, well, what are they doing at the Warwick Mall of all places? But they're everywhere now, right?
They are everywhere. When we looked at the crash data, we saw crashes on roads with speed limits as low as 15 miles an hour and as high as 65. So you're going to see deer on, the Mass Pike. You're going to see deer on 93 and 95. You're going to see them on the back roads. It really doesn't matter what town you're in. A lot of the communities with a good number of deer crashes are considered urban and fairly developed, but we've got a lot of commuters passing through major highways. And it really, you're going to find deer everywhere. They're a thriving population. There's a pretty good lack of natural predators for them out there these days. And, as I mentioned before, I'm not a wildlife expert, but I've heard many times from experts that the deer population just continues to grow and grow. And it's an ongoing issue. And the fact is, we share the roads with the deer. And unfortunately, deer, don't pay attention to our safety messages. They're very unpredictable, and, they're not going to listen to me. So it really is dependent on us to anticipate that. But it's true. I mean, you can see deer in a big city. Oftentimes, they can travel quite great distances in a given time period. And this time of year, especially, I mentioned the inhibition goes down. They get a little bit more frisky, a little more aggressive, and they'll often end up in places you might not see them in other times of the year when they're kind of laying low and staying away from people. So you definitely want to keep your guard up no matter where you're driving. In those rural areas where you got plenty of woodland, you definitely have probably a higher chance of seeing them. But on the highways, when people are whizzing by, there's just that much more traffic volume, so we're going to still see plenty of crashes in those areas.
Yeah, is there a particular area? I know Bristol County was always sort of the number one area. Is that still one of the biggest areas for deer strikes?
Yeah, it's up there with 302 crashes in 2002, but Bristol actually was outpaced by Plymouth County in 2022. So there were 312 crashes in Plymouth County. Worcester County's up there in number 3 with 283 crashes, followed by Middlesex and Essex County with 225 and 134 crashes, respectively. So whatever county you're in, there's going to be, quite a few crashes. The top town for crashes in Massachusetts, and we're talking between the months of October and December. So this isn't year-round. This is just that time period we talk about, the mating season. Middleborough is leading the way with 48 crashes, followed by Taunton, Westport, Swansea, Rehoboth, and East Bridgewater, Seekonk area. So southeastern Mass is definitely a hot spot, that's for sure, but we're going to see crashes all over the state.
And what do you do if you're driving down the road, you suddenly see a deer, the deer sort of freezes in the middle of the road? Do you swerve? Do you stop? What do you try to do?
Yeah, that expression, like a deer in headlights, that's apt because oftentimes they do kind of freeze up there. So you're driving along. One thing I would do is maybe lay on your horn a little bit. That can sometimes frighten an animal away. First of all, I hope you're not speeding. You're following the speed limit, so that's going to be working to your advantage to slow down. Depending on the road, we urge folks not to swerve. Our instinct is often to kind of jerk the wheel and try to, avoid the collision. But that sometimes can be worse. If you're in a multi-lane road, that might mean smashing into a car that's next to you, and you don't want to be doing that. The other concern is the potential for leaving the roadway, especially a rural back road. You might end up off the road and hitting a tree, which would certainly not be good. So, it's tough to really give people the best action in one of these situations because we're talking milliseconds, split-second decision-making. So sometimes it's hard to really think things through and make the right decision for that particular situation. But in an event where you really have no option but to hit the deer, the best thing to do is really try to apply the brakes firmly, stay in your lane, avoid other vehicles, and just try to mitigate that crash impact as much as possible. And hopefully, too, you're wearing a seatbelt. That's going to help you out a lot in the event of a deer crash. If you don't have a seatbelt on, your chances of being injured are that much higher.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I remember talking with a former coworker who lived out in Pennsylvania, and we were in kind of I guess it was some sort of a van because I was sort of sitting in the third row seat, and there was another couple in the second row seat, and he was talking about, I got one here, I got one here, I got one here, and I'm like, got what? And he said, deer. And I said, this is kind of even though it was Pennsylvania, I said, this is kind of a residential area for deer hunting. And he's like, no, not hunting. I got them with my car. And I said, what's sort of the woodland approach to what happens if you see a deer in the road? And he said something to me which is sort of always stuck with me for a little while. He said, keep in mind that cars today have anti-lock brakes, so you can steer and slow down at the same time. So you may just panic and jam on the brakes, and your brakes are going to slow you down, but maybe there's some chance that you can just deflect a little bit. Don't cross the yellow line in the middle of the road, but maybe you can just kind of move to one side slightly on the roadway, and that may take a little of the impact away. And the other thing he said was, and this sort of makes sense in a lot of cases, whether it's a deer in the road or you're coming up to a pothole or something, try to slow down as much as you can. And just as if you can think about it, just as you're about to hit the poor animal, take your foot off the brake, and what that's going to do, that's going to allow the car to kind of bounce up in the air a little bit. When your car stops, the nose pushes down. So if you take your foot off the brake just before you hit the deer, chances are you're going to go over it rather than have the deer come up over the hood of your car and possibly slide into the windshield.
Yeah, that's certainly great advice. And it is true that the advice that we give for this type of situation is very similar to the advice we give for any other type of sudden emergency situation on the roadway where you have to think about evasive maneuvers or slowing down abruptly and stopping. So following those golden rules of safe driving, keeping a good following distance from the car in front of you, because, hey, what if the deer runs in front of the car in front of you and you're falling too close and they slam on their brakes or swerve out of the way? Now it's up to you to stop and not, hit that car in front of you, or you be the one ending up hitting that deer. So giving yourself more time that way, keeping an eye on what's going on behind you. If somebody's tailgating you closely and you're speeding along, not only are you increasing the chance of running into a deer, you're increasing the chance of getting rear-ended by that person behind you because you're not giving yourself enough time to slow down and stop. So you're right on the money there, and it's one of those things where it's unexpected. A deer collision, if you talk to folks where this happens to them, they weren't expecting it. It just kind of happened in a split second. So anytime you're taking your eyes off the road or your focus off your driving, you're putting yourself at a higher risk. So safe drivers, people who really prioritize driving safely and not letting other drivers on the road influence your behavior, because we do see a lot of bad behavior out there. That's going to go a long way to helping you avoid a collision. And I think, everyone has a deer crash story, and many of my colleagues do. I myself have them. And it's scary. These are big animals. They carry a lot of weight. A deer is a lot smaller than a moose, but a deer can still, especially a fully grown adult male deer, that's not something you want to ram into by any means, for sure.
No, absolutely, and great advice. Leave that following distance. Leave that 3 seconds of following distance. Maybe even 4 seconds at dusk when your visibility isn't as good, and you can, if you can do that, that's fantastic. And the same old rules: when your eyes are not on the road directly in front of you, kind of hover over the brake pedal a little bit so you can make that stop and save that half a second or 1 second of reaction time. That at 60 miles an hour, you just saved about 90 feet of driving distance, so you can maybe have things happen a little bit quicker so you can get stuff done. So really, this is the time of year we need to be careful, like you pointed out. Scan the roadway, keep your lights on, pay attention, know the deer are out there, know they travel in packs. There's going to be more than one. You hit the deer, now what? Now what do you do? Do you stay with it? Do you call the police? What do you do?
Well, for one thing, if I was in a collision, I'd want to stop, safely, not in the middle of the roadway. If I can, I want to get off the road in a safe spot. I want to do that. I want to check my car for any damage. First of all, a deer collision might not seem like it's making your car inoperable, but it might have caused a puncture with your radiator, for example, or some other type of damage that might actually cause a problem a little bit down the road. You want to call the state environmental police. The number is 800-632-8075, and that's going to give that information over to the state so they can handle the fact that there is, a deer on the roadway there. And then you're going to want to call your insurance company and report the damage to your car, take photos of that damage, and generally deer crashes are covered under your comprehensive coverage, so hopefully you have that. And I would avoid handling the carcass as much as possible. Wildlife, we don't really want to recommend folks handle that. You could get sick. There might be some, bad stuff on there. And then, you want to the main thing I like to tell people is, you want to get off the side of the road as much as you can. We see way too many collisions on the roadside. We have a slow down, move over law in Massachusetts, but many folks are not aware of it, and depending on your location, if you're in a vulnerable location, sometimes staying in your car is better than staying outside of your car. So you got to kind of look at the layout where you are. If you can get away from the roadway with something in between you and the roadway, like a barrier or a guardrail, that can be good. If you can get to higher ground, that can be good because you can see cars coming your way. But say you're in a situation where you really don't have that option, staying in the vehicle and using the vehicle safety equipment to protect you. And that means keeping your seatbelt on, even if you're not in motion. Because if you do get struck by a vehicle coming up from behind you, that seatbelt's going to keep you in that driver's seat and protected from the forces of that crash.
Absolutely. Let's switch off a little bit. A couple weeks from now, almost, it'll be Halloween. It's kind of oddly enough, the same rules sort of apply. We're not going to. Well, you know what I mean. It's we're gonna have kids running back and forth, kind of under the influence of candy, I guess. So same rules apply, right? Except for the high beam.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally. Same rules apply. One thing I like to tell people on Halloween, if you're not out and about, if you have errands to run, get them done earlier in the day. Try to avoid being out and about Halloween night, just because there's going to be a lot of kids out there. There's going to be a lot of pedestrians. In some neighborhoods, it kind of turns into a block party where you might have adults walking around with the children and maybe enjoying some cold beverages along the way. So folks may not be.
I think that's only in Barrington, Rhode Island, they do that. But yeah,
yeah, it might happen in near me in Cranston, Rhode Island as well. So avoid those neighborhood shortcuts. Some folks, if you live in a neighborhood where people tend to use your street to avoid the main road, and you're in a kind of shortcut area. I'd be extra attentive with my kids on that area. And if I'm a driver, I'm avoiding those neighborhood shortcuts just because there's going to be trick-or-treaters present. And we're going to watch for children on the street, of course. They're unpredictable just like deer.
Yeah, and the thing about kids don't have the same peripheral vision. Peripheral vision's a funny thing. It's like when kids are little, their peripheral vision's narrow, and as we get older, our peripheral vision widens out. And then as we get older, it actually gets a little bit narrower again. And kids have that narrow peripheral vision that it's not just to the left and right, but it's also up and down, which is why sometimes kids will just walk into stuff, and you're like, how did they not see that? It's right there in front of them. Well, because they don't have that good peripheral vision that adults do. So, like you said, just be careful. Drive extra slow. Maybe even this is a time you don't want to drive around with your high beams on because you might blind the kids in the road. So just be extra attentive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Watch for children on the streets, on medians, curbs. They're going to be popping out between parked cars. Anytime you have, anything between yourself and the side of the road, there could be a child coming out from that area, so you want to be mindful of that. And slowing down is so important. The posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour we have that speed limit for a reason. Many folks feel that it's too slow. The urge to go a little bit faster. So I think generally folks often travel about 35 miles an hour on neighborhood streets, but when we talk about the risk of killing a pedestrian's twice as likely to die if they're hit by a car going 35 miles an hour as compared to a car going 25 miles an hour. So that's just 10 miles an hour, but that's the difference between life and death. And when we're talking about small children, they're especially vulnerable. They're much smaller.
Yep.
So slowing down on those neighborhood streets is super important. And, of course, be sober. We see an increase in pedestrian fatalities on Halloween, and we also see quite a few arrests for impaired driving on Halloween, folks coming home from the Halloween party. So, I'm still not tired of sending that message. Don't drive drunk. You'd think at this point we wouldn't have to say it anymore, but it remains a huge problem, and 1/3 of all motor vehicle deaths are the result of drunk driving. So that's one death every 45 minutes, and that's way too much. So don't be part of that statistic and find a designated driver if you have to.
Yeah. We're not going to tell people not to drink. We're just going to tell them don't drink and drive. It's simple. It's a simple message, and it's easy enough. And and we're also in our state and neighboring states are legal marijuana states. So same rules apply. And I think DOT or somebody said it. If you feel different, you're going to drive different, and that different is never better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't pop a few gummies and go, try to pass the bar exam, right? So why would you pop a few gummies and get behind the wheel? It does require a similar mental focus. I think we underestimate the real cognitive load that's going on when you're behind the wheel. Driving is a complicated task, and we get comfortable with it, and we kind of take it for granted. But if you really look at what's going on in the brain of a highly focused driver in dense traffic at high speeds, if you're doing everything right, you're using maybe more brain power than many other tasks that you're going to be concentrating on during the day. So kind of recalibrating our expectations and rethinking about, how much energy do I really have to commit to driving safely. I think a lot of folks really underestimate how much you have to pay attention to the road, and more so than you already do. When I joined AAA the first year, I thought I was already a safe driver, and I did a lot of things right. And it took working in this field for me to realize that even myself, who I thought I was a good, safe driver, I had a lot to learn, and even some of my behaviors maybe weren't the best. And I'm still working on it every day. It's easy to, fall prey to the motivation to speed a little bit now and then, or to go with the flow of traffic. But oftentimes we have to kind of take a deep breath and check ourselves and slow down a little bit. So, and that applies on Halloween night and every night of the year.
Every night of the year. So basic rules apply. Eyes on the road, hands on the wheel. Don't drive distracted. Pay attention. Don't drive impaired. And whether you're worried about deer, kids, or just other motorists on the road, your only job when you're behind the wheel is just what? Drive, right?
That's right. We're all just trying to get home or to work or get where we need to be safely. And oftentimes, if I'm frustrated with a car in front of me on the road, there are times where you're moving along and then there's that one driver who, you're like, what is this person doing? I like to imagine, maybe they're having a really bad day, or maybe they're coming home from the hospital with a newborn infant in the back seat and they're really nervous, Sometimes just trying to humanize the other car, think about the person in there, that makes a big difference, and it changes your behavior, makes you realize, you know what, I'm going to take a deep breath, I'm going to cool off a little bit. At the end of the day, when I'm at home, when I'm relaxing, I'm not going to be remembering this incident on the road that's making me upset right now. It's all about kind of your mental approach and kind of, just realizing that we're all on the road together. We all have different skills and abilities, and not everybody is going to be as competent or comfortable as I am. And I'm going to give them a little bit of room, because they need to get home, and so do I.
No, my favorite line always was, I found out there was a lot less jerks on the road when I stopped being one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I noticed that myself. When I let people merge, when I leave that safe following distance, all of a sudden, I have fewer people yelling and screaming at me, and that goes a long way.
Yep.
That's how we like to be treated in real life, and real life doesn't end when we close that driver's side door.
That's right. Mark, if people want to find out more information about everything about AAA, AAA.com, right?
Yeah. You might have a zip code you got to type in there to get to AAA Northeast website. Yep. But once you're there, we've got all sorts of information there. We've got a safety section. You can find tons of information there. You can find my email address. You can send me an email directly if you have any questions. I'm always happy to engage with any of our members or even non-members about all things traffic safety and help people find, all the information they're looking for. Tons of resources on our website.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for taking a little time out of your Sunday morning to join us on the Car Doctor program.
Hey, it's my pleasure, John. Always enjoy the show. I listen to podcasts every week, so hopefully your listeners are doing the same thing if they can't catch you live.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Have a great day.
Hey, you too, John. Take care.
We need to take a break, pay some bills. My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program, and if you would like to join us, simple enough, give us a call at 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. When we come back, maybe we'll answer a few car questions that came in this week, including one from Dolores, who has a flashing odometer. I haven't even seen that one yet. That one just popped up right now, and a review of the Infiniti QX60. So until then, stay right there, or give us a call at 781-837-4900. Jesse needs something to do anyway besides play commercials. You're listening to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. We'll be right back.
AAA is with you at every moment in your life. They have 24-hour 7 roadside assistance, which covers you in any car you're driving or riding in, even a rental or your friend's wheels. They have great member rates on home and auto insurance, savings on travel, hotels, and rental cars, and discounts on hundreds of your favorite brands. You're covered on and off the road. Learn more at aaa.com/join.
On Friday, October 20th, join South Shore Health at their annual Moonlight and Miracles Gala, featuring a seated dinner, live auction with MC Billy Costa, and music by local band Hot Mess. This year's event at the Weymouth Club will support the growing need for emergency care in our community. In life or death scenarios, close-to-home emergency care is critical. Support these valuable services and purchase your tickets for the Moonlight and Miracles Gala right now at southshorehealth.org/gala.
Talk radio with a South Shore point of view. Hi, I'm Kevin Chachi. Join me tomorrow for Monday Night Talk, where the South Shore comes to talk. Tomorrow night after the 6 o'clock news here on 95.9 WATD.
Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program. And as promised, we talk about the car that got me around a couple weeks ago, actually. And that is the Infiniti QX60. And it happens to be in... cars got weird... They just have weird names now. We'll get to it in a minute. But the Infiniti QX60 is a mid-size, 3-row luxury SUV that comes in several trim levels. Pure, Luxe, Sensory, and the top-of-the-line Autograph. Why can't they just have, like, L, LE, but they're weird names. It comes as front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. All versions are powered by the same 295 horsepower, 3.5-liter V6 engine that's connected to a 9-speed automatic transmission. To further tailor the driving experience, every QX60 features a drive mode selector with 5 settings: snow, sport, and a configurable personal setting. It has intelligent all-wheel drive that can direct up to 50% of the available power to the rear wheels to optimize traction in varying circumstances. Standard features include all kinds of stuff: forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, predictive forward collision warning, maybe it will tell you if there's a deer out there, rear cross traffic alert, which I really kind of like. The old days of backing a car out of a parking spot and being able to see once you get partway out. Now with trucks and SUVs, you're backing out quite a ways without being able to see. So having rear cross traffic alert that signals if there's somebody coming down a lane is kind of nice. Rear automatic emergency braking, so if you are backing up and there's something behind you, it will apply the brakes. Blind spot warning, lane departure warning, high beam assist, so in other words, the high beams come on when the road is dark and there's nobody coming the other way. Other available advanced safety features include intelligent a round view monitor, so sort of this 360-degree monitor, which looks like the car that you're driving, just in the case of the car I was driving, a little different color. It has moving object detection. It's got a smart rear view mirror, driver attention alert, kept telling me to pull over and take a break, traffic sign recognition, Pro Pilot Assist, which is sort of a semi-autonomous driving. Our road test was in the pretty luxurious all-wheel drive sensory version, and it was very nice inside. The inside of the QX60 is functional for up to 7 passengers, 6 in the Autograph edition, which we didn't drive, which has second-row captain's chairs. Very comfortable seats, Infiniti zero gravity-inspired seats, so I think they're memory foam or something, but it in the time that I spent in it, seats felt really comfortable. My wife, who finds most new car seats, either the cushions are too firm or the cushions seem too short, she found these seats pretty comfortable. She's like, this would be a good long-distance driving car, and I think she was right. Second row seats tilt and slide to provide access to the third row, but also have much better second row legroom than a lot of vehicles do. The front seats are heated and cooled. The second row seats are heated. What's nice, and unlike some other vehicles, you don't need to remove a child safety seat to access the third row because the whole seat can move. Cargo space for our run to Walmart and Market Basket and all those other places we seem to go to expands to 75.4 cubic feet with the second and third row folded, which is more stuff than we could ever use. Cargo area has standard power lift tailgate and with available motion activated liftgate feature, which I never actually got to work. And I don't have great luck with that. I would just as soon keep the keys in my hand, push the liftgate button and have it pop up than try to wave my foot under the bumper while it's raining or something. I'd rather just hit the button ahead of time to be able to get in, but that's just me. The third row seating is also power folding, which adds to the convenience. So if you're trying to put bigger stuff in there, you would use in the third row. You hit a button and and hit a release, hit a button, the seats fold forward. Pretty nice. The controls are pretty straightforward. Actually, a nice mix of actual buttons and knobs. There was a wireless phone charging pad, which I'm finding more convenient all the time. Head-up display. I can take it or leave it. Very nice sounding Bose 17-speaker audio system, as well as our Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. No extra fees for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, like some manufacturers are talking about doing. The 3.5-liter V6 engine provides decent power, and in the case of our road tests, I thought it did pretty well for a pretty heavy, big vehicle, 25 miles per gallon, according to the onboard computer. EPA says 20 miles per gallon in the city, 25 miles per gallon on the highway, and 22 miles per gallon combined. I was a little bit better than that. Maybe I'm just easy on the gas. The QX60 is also capable of towing up to 6,000 pounds, so pretty formidable towing capacity. And of course, you have to read the fine print that says when properly equipped. I also felt the Infiniti models, in the past were okay. They never really did a lot for me. They always seem to miss the mark a bit, either with styling or performance. And beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You like stuff or you don't. People have said to me, how come you never really comment on style? I'm like, well, first off, I don't have any. And secondly, I really do think people might look at one car and go, that's gorgeous, or that particular color, and think it's great. Something like a dull gray color, somebody might go, that just doesn't do anything for me. But in fact, to other people, that could be really attractive looking. So you never really know what you get with people's views on that. So again, you never know. Our test model had an MSRP, so manufacturer's suggested retail price of $60,000, and with a couple options, destination charges, it topped out at almost $65,000. So there's a few things coming up there. I think we have Tom from Kingston on the phone with us. Tom, good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. This is Tom from Kingston. How are you?
That's what it says right here. It says Tom from Kingston.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. I got to pay attention.
It also says you might be Rusty from Woburn, but I think he's waiting to get on. So we'll talk to you first.
I'm glad I didn't get confused who I was.
All right. Yeah.
Two questions. The first one, we're looking at the Kia's vehicles, and they have supposedly a good warranty.
Yeah. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on the drivetrain, and 5 years, 60,000-mile bumper to bumper. So, and the only thing
power window stops.
Power window stops in 5 years. The only thing they don't cover after the first year is disc brake pads and windshield wiper blades.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And tires and things like that.
Yeah, tires. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have to bring it to a dealership to have that warranty?
Yes. Yeah. Like any new car warranty, it has to go back to a dealer. It doesn't have to go back to the same dealer. And you also don't have to go back to them for maintenance. Your car might come with, there might be some deal where you get 2 or 3 years worth of maintenance for free, or 3 oil changes or whatever for free.
Yeah.
But you don't need, as long as you do the maintenance, that's the only thing that is required. So say you have a really good mechanic you like going to, and every 5,000 miles you have them change the oil, and something happens to the engine at 95,000 miles, and you go back to the dealer and they're going to go, oh, we haven't seen you since November of 2023. And you're like, yeah, but here's all my receipts. I did all my oil changes. I had them done at Joe's Exxon. So they'll stand behind it.
Good. Second question: we're coming back from Wellesley the other day, back to South Shore in Kingston, and my wife was driving. I was just relaxing, and she says, "What is the space you're supposed to have between you and the car in front, depending on your speed? How do you figure that out?" There used to be a formula. And I said, it's a good question. It's been many years since I've been asked a question like that, and I usually just use my own judgment. Is there like a guideline?
Yeah, there is. I mean, years ago, when if anybody who ever took driver's ed, they always taught this 1 car length for every 10 miles an hour. The problem is, what's a car length? Is it a Chevy Suburban or is it a Mini Cooper? What's a car length? And really what we say now is leave 3 seconds of following distance. And what that means is when the car in front of you goes by some fixed object. And it could be a shadow in the road, it could be a telephone pole, it doesn't matter. It should take you about 3 seconds to get to that same spot. So if a car in front of you goes under an overpass and there's a shadow in the road, and you see that car go under the, through the shadow,
oh, interesting.
You should count, however you like to count seconds, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. That's how long it should take for you to get to that same spot. Now, in some places they actually have markers in the road. And when I've been in Pennsylvania up through the Pocono Mountains has those markers in the road, and they want you to keep 2 markers between you and the car in front of you. That's about 2 seconds, and 2 seconds is what we always used to consider the bare minimum. And over the past, 20 years, we've bumped it up to 3 seconds. And you'll find in a lot of cases, if you're on 128 or the Mass Pike and you leave 3 seconds, people are going to jump in front of you. And that's fine. Just kind of take your foot off the gas a second. Try to keep that space. That's going to give you the time to react. I mean, it takes... and we're going to, a couple of weeks from now, we're going to be talking to Dan Strollo from In Control. But, it takes about a half a second to a second to realize something happened in front of you. And it takes about a half a second to a second to take your foot off the gas and hit the brake. So if you leave 3 seconds of following distance, that gives you time to react.
They never did a study in the Bostonian traffic when you're going in. If you leave more than 6 inches in front of you.
That's right. It's like NASCAR.
Exactly.
Everybody's drafting to try to, no, and people will, but that's when those chain reaction crashes happen. When somebody hits the brake and everybody's, 20 feet away from each other, and they all slam into each other, and then there's the one person that left plenty of room, and they just sort of swerve around and avoid it all, and hopefully no one runs into the back of them. So, leave as much space that you feel comfortable with. Like you said, you kind of do it by feel, but if you try, have your wife try counting out 3 seconds, and it doesn't matter whether it's 3 seconds at 30 miles an hour or 3 seconds at 60 miles an hour. It's going to give you that. It's going to give you that safe stopping distance.
Well, it's good to have a little refresher what the guidelines are and try to apply it, even though you're trying to keep up with everybody. And it's just tough when you're on 128 or 93 or 95, any of those.
Absolutely. And watch out for deer.
Amen on that.
All right.
Listen, have a good weekend.
You too. All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Our phone number, 781-837-4900. Let's talk to Rusty in Woburn. Rusty, good morning. Rusty?
Hello.
Hello. There you are.
Hey, John. Good morning, John. How are you? I'm the guy that called in with the Prius that had 227,000 miles on it. Was hoping to get to 450,000.
And what? It stopped running the next day?
Last Sunday, I was at Sandwich, New Hampshire at the Sandwich Fair coming home, and there's rattling and shaking in the Prius. It felt like the thing was going to fall apart. It went away. Monday night, it came back. Tuesday, it came back, and then all of a sudden, Wednesday, after the head cylinder, the head gasket blew, and the EKG system all decided to go at the same time. Yeah, I was devastated. And my mechanic goes, "Oh, not bad. It'll cost you $4,700 to fix." I'm like, "Oh." I was doing so well.
You were doing. Now, did it overheat or anything? What?
No, and this is the worst part. There's no code, so we went online to see what the heck was going on. It said the Toyota Prius death rattle from 2012. I'm like, for crying out loud, everything went at once, and it was just not just the rattling, and then all of a sudden, it just, if you read the stuff, like, because I normally, I kept beautiful care of the vehicle. It's just that, you're driving and it's like having a heart attack. You're working out. Next thing you know, you're on the Peloton. Next thing you're dropping dead of a heart attack. That's exactly what happened here. It's just the EKG thing was clogged, and then all of a sudden the perfect storm, like the rattling and everything went. And I'm like, what the hell? I was like, I was devastated. But I learned two things this time. I bought my last 6 vehicles at Acton Toyota in Littleton. Thursday night, I went online. I found this one 2022 Toyota Corolla. Went up there Thursday night, made a deal for it, picked it up last night. I have to go back Wednesday to deal with the registration and deal with the little crack in the windshield. I had to bite the bullet. But I found out 2 good things about myself. One, I didn't know my credit rating was an 884, and I was like, thank you very much. And I still couldn't get a lower loan than what I thought I could get. I'm like, wow, but 884 is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I just have to. But I was just.
I don't think you can get much higher than that, can you? Is it 890 or something?
900. But I tried, but I was just devastated. And the dealer who I bought the car from, he's like, Rusty, we put the car under the lift. It's like, you had this for 10 years, and there's 228,000 miles on it. Not many people can do this in a Prius. Like, I wanted 500,000.
Yeah. No, the only way I ever heard of this was, if the EGR gets really clogged up, and what it's going to do, it's going to knock and ping a little bit more, and I guess maybe the extra combustion chamber pressure causes the head gasket to go, but
it was rattling like it was going to fall apart, and it came out of the blue. I'm on 95 up in New Hampshire, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? It just rattled. I thought that they was going to blow up.
Yeah, I mean, it's you got me curious. So while we were talking, I just Googled, Prius death rattle, and one of the I recently purchased a used Prius V, 168,000 miles. I noticed soon after I start the car, engine starts with still parts, runs very rough, and will usually settle down. I did some research, found 2 common causes: EGR and head gasket. Was it using any coolant? Were you adding coolant to it periodically?
No, nothing at all. It just happened last Sunday. Just everything came at once. I was like, it's like the patient suffered a massive heart attack. We had a wake and funeral for it on Thursday night. I'm like, what the hell? I'm such a cheap guy, and I was doing so well, and now
now you got a new puppy to replace the old one. So,
well, you know what? The best part is they gave me a 6-year loan. I'm going to pay the loan off in 2 years. Because I was just like, they wouldn't go, like, because my credit was so good. It's like, well, we'll give you this. I'm like, can I get lower? They're like, no. I'm like, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just, it's a used car, so I had to clean up the dirt. Like, they gave it to me as is, so I just bought one of those Pacell power cleaners, just cleaned out the inside. Kind of scratched a little bit around, but they gave me some money off on it. But like, it's right on the front. You can see like it's scratched on the front, but it's not noticeable. It's down lower on the car.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I mean, still, clean it up, get a good coat of wax on it for the winter, and
right. And like I saw, like it's kind of scratched at the bottom, like you can see like the black part, but it's like all the way down by the door. It's not really.
Yeah.
It's new to me. That's why.
Yeah, it's every new used car requires the new owner to make it their own, and that can that can be some little things you want to do to it to clean it up, make it better. Maybe you want to put, I'm
going to put a K&N air filter in it later this week. Put the K&N air filter.
You could, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know why you'd want to, because I don't think it'll do a whole lot for it. But
I don't know, because I put one in the Prius. It seemed to work better, but
it did. It did until the head gasket went. So.
Yeah, it's 100% true, my friend.
I don't think the two were related, though. So
no, I know. But when that thing went, John, I thought the car was going to just fall apart. It just kept rattling, and it was shaking.
Yeah,
to the point of it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen now, maybe not 2012, but I have seen some Priuses go 500,000 miles and not really have any problems.
I know. We talked about that before. I know.
Yeah.
Trust me, I was so hoping for that.
All right. Well, the good thing is you bought one of the best possible used cars you can get. The Corolla's always a great used car.
It only has 30,000 miles on it, so it's not even broken in yet.
Yeah. Yep. No, and just. Do all the right things. Do the oil changes when you're supposed to. Maybe use synthetic oil.
I use the Mobil One synthetic oil. That's all I've been doing. So I'm just going to keep. Not going to apply the Prius love that I used on this one. So
there you go. And good quality oil filters too. Oil filters are really important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Good luck, Rusty.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for everything, John.
All right. Keep me up to date. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Our phone number is 781-837-4900 if you would like to join us. 781-837-4900. I feel bad for Rusty there. It's you don't want to hear stuff like that, especially on a car that you would think lasts a long time. So weird emails you get, and some of them make it a little hard to. This person just wrote to me and says, "My car doesn't start. Key is not detected." Okay. Be nice to know what it was and everything, but chances are he has a key fob And if he takes the key fob and uses it to push the start button, chances are the car will probably start, providing he can unlock the car and get in. So I will answer that. Someone wrote to me who recently bought a Hyundai Sonata, and these are questions that just came in the last 15 minutes. Hello, we just bought a 2023 Sonata Hybrid. Love the car so far, but there's been a couple of issues about the buying process that are causing unnecessary headaches. I'd like to know what you think. The car was purchased in September 21st, and as far as I know, it was new with 68 miles on it. But the Hyundai warranty start date keeps showing up as May 31, 23 on the customer portal. Dealer said it would automatically be updated and then changed to tell me that they had put it in service on that date, and that doesn't make sense. Dealer first said it would be automatically updated, then changed to tell me that they put it in service on that date and that it could not be changed. So maybe someone bought the car, didn't like it, and brought it back. They said they would send me a letter honoring the warranty as if it started on 9/21. I'm not comfortable with this. What if they move or go out of business? That could very well happen in the next 10 years. Besides, they never sent the letter as promised. I feel this situation to be unusual with a new car purchase. And as long as the title says new, and that's what I hope it says, is new, that should be the date the car goes into service. So I guess the first thing I would do is call Hyundai customer assistance and say, look, my car was purchased new. It went into service on 9/21. That's what it says on my registration. That's what it says on my title. And I wanted to say that. He's thinking of opening up a complaint with the Attorney General. Have you heard of this happening before? Not specifically, except for the fact that if that car was actually registered at some point, or the dealer inadvertently, maybe a deal was going to happen with the car, the dealer did all the paperwork, and then the deal fell through because of a lack of credit on the part of the person who was thinking about buying it. Maybe that could happen. The second issue, which is probably easier or not to deal with, the car didn't come with a spare tire. It comes with a tire mobility kit. I've shopped around a couple tire stores. No one seems to sell spare tires for this car. Should I just let it go or keep trying to procure a spare? Well, not just a spare, but a spare and a jack and a lug wrench to go along with all that. It really depends on whether that space under the floor can accommodate a spare tire or not. There is a company online that sells a variety of sort of universal spare tires, and we have even looked into getting them because electric cars are one of those cars, as well as hybrid cars, that a lot of times they don't have spare tires at all. And there is a company called Easy Spare that might be able to come up with a spare tire for your vehicle. But it really does depend. So let's see whether this is 2023. If it lets us pick one. Hyundai Sonata. So apparently they have something. They say that they have a 17-inch alloy spare wheel and tire. It has sort of a weird bolt pattern, so you have to use like these special lug nuts. And it says, we guarantee this easy wheel is the safest, highest quality spare wheel available. Says it will fit. So whether it actually fits or not, I'm not really sure. But according to their website, it will. And you can get a spare tire and with a little tote bag that it can go into. And by the time you're done, you're going to spend about $300. So, maybe an option to see what's out there. I don't know that how well it's going to fit. So, I think it's going to be, even though I think it will fit the car, I don't know if it will fit in the trunk. So that might be an issue. But worth looking into and see what they have. Again, we were talking about getting them at work one time to try to help people, because if you own a Tesla or you own a Kia EV, you own a Hyundai EV, you own a Mustang, electric Mustang, the Mark, whatever they call it, Mark E, any of those electric vehicles, they don't have spare tires. They eliminate the spare tires for room for the battery and controllers and all that stuff, but also to lighten up weight as well, which helps promote better fuel economy. So look around, see what's there, but I think you're going to be stuck with the spare tire mobility kit, which works okay if you get it. You get a nail in the car, you come out from going shopping and you get a flat, you screw this thing in, pump it up, it'll get you home and you'll be fine. But if you hit a curb or a pothole and you punch a hole in the side of the tire, you're calling for help. That's all there is to it. I prefer a spare tire, and AAA tow truck drivers will tell you and tell manufacturers, give me a spare. I'd rather have a spare. And it makes it easier for them, easier for the customer, easier for the AAA member, either way. We need to take another break, pay some bills. My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. If you would like to join us, our phone number is 837-4900, 781-837-4900. We'll be right back.
Visit the James Library and Center for the Arts in Norwell for a weekend full of entertainment and intrigue. First, on Friday, October 20th, learn about the hauntings of the South Shore with the Greater Boston Paranormal Society. Society members share their spookiest experiences and teach you how paranormal investigations work. And before you leave for the night, participate in a mini investigation to see if the James has any unknown visitors. The event begins at 7:30 p.m. and is just $10 to attend. Then, on Sunday, October 22nd, the Borromeo String Quartet performs at the James. Hailed as one of the most important ensembles of its time, Borromeo brings its fresh interpretations of the classical music canon to the James. The performance begins at 3 p.m., with tickets starting at $20. That's the Haunted South Shore on Friday, October 20th, and the Borromeo String Quartet on Sunday, October 22nd. Tickets for both events are available online at jameslibrary.org. Keep your car in tip-top shape at Joseph's Garage. Have your oil changed, tires checked, get an inspection sticker, or just gas at Joseph's Garage, right down the street from the James in Norwell. Joseph's Garage now offers Gulf Pay at their pumps.
AAA is with you at every moment in your life. They have 24-hour 7 roadside assistance, which covers you in any car you're driving or riding in, even a rental or your friend's wheels. They have great member rates on home and auto insurance, savings on travel, hotels, and rental cars, and discounts on hundreds of your favorite brands. You're covered on and off the road. Learn more at aaa.com/join.
Hi, this is Liz Loans. Tune in to Twilight Showcase Radio, hosted by Sandy Stride and Keith James. Visit twilightshowcase.org.
Twilight Showcase, tonight from 8 to 10 on 95.9 WATD. Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. I just heard the commercial about Joseph's service station. That used to be Joseph Pontiac, and it was a great little Pontiac dealership. It was just too small. It was it didn't fit into the GM lifestyle at the time of how GM wanted to do stuff, and it was one of those classic-y kind of places, and it was like South Shore Buick in Quincy, which was a great place. And I just learned recently that Bob Fitzgerald, the guy who owned South Shore Buick with his brother, passed away a few years ago. I didn't even know that, and he was such a good guy, and it was such a good little dealership there too. So, but let's talk to old friend Ken from Topsfield. Ken, good morning. Ken?
To hear you on the show.
There you are.
I've been over the time for years. I've been lamenting white walls have gone away. Now I see black rims all the time. And the latest thing that I've noticed in recent years that is just driving me crazy is paint. Flat, like matte color cars. And at first I thought it was just one dealer, maybe a Subaru or a certain thing. But now I'm seeing it in many different manufacturers. Is this a base paint that's cheaper and that's why there's no metallic? I don't find it attractive in any way. Maybe that's like beauty in the eyes of the beholder. But is there some reason for this other than this is what customers want, sir?
No, this is kind of what customers want. It's paint is one of those things that it is. You're right. It is kind of the what's in the eye of the beholder sort of thing. But it's one of those weird things that. I kind of wonder what happened to things like nice shiny paint. I remember the first time I drove a Mercedes with it looked like it had gray primer on it. I'm like, who thinks this really looks attractive? But people do. In fact, I was road testing a Toyota, and it had this sort of almost looked like flat military gray. And my neighbor came over and he goes, "I love that color." And I'm like, "You do? Why?" And yeah, I mean, it was sort of, and I was driving something else with kind of a weird blue, and it was almost like a flat blue. And I got out of the car, and this woman came up to the car and said, "Do you know what color this is?" And I'm like, "Blue? I don't know." And she said, No, it's got to be some special color. I love this." And I'm like, "You like it because it doesn't have any sparkle and pizzazz to it?" Now, but I do like a little bit of depth of color in these different. Yeah.
Can you get metallic, like a little sparkle, a little?
Oh yeah.
Is that an option?
Oh yeah. You can still get things like a variety of white paints that are really triple white kind of stuff that has different colors in it, and you can get black that is almost like black chrome now, which is a pretty nice looking paint. But there was a time where, and I don't pretend to know why, but there was a time where the most popular color of cars were. I think it was white, and I always kind of thought it was because white was a car that for company cars and things like that, it was the best one, and the most popular car colors for right now, oddly enough, 26% of the cars, according to IC Cars, 26% of the cars on the road are white, followed by 21% that are black, followed by 19% that are gray. Who wants a gray car? It's just a weird color. And the interesting color. If you want a purple car, you want less than 2% of the people that want a purple car. So, hey Ken, that music. You know what that music means. We need to get going. So, all right, take care, Ken. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, sir. Bye-bye.
All right. So that music means we need to go. Thanks for Jesse for doing all the good work he does back at the studio. And until next week, make sure you wear your seatbelt, drive safely, be good to your car. And if you see an emergency vehicle by the side of the road, slow down or move over. It saves lives. Talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.